Welcome to Weekly Talkback. I'm Kevin Beers. I'm the Director of Media and Technology.
And I'm Dave Whitten. I'm the pastor at West Richmond Church.
Before we get started, I want to clear one thing up. Last week, I said that my understanding of the Brethren Disaster Ministry workers are that they're told not to talk about why they're doing what they're doing. And I asked, that was just my understanding, but I did ask if there's any viewers who want to correct me on that, if I'm wrong, to correct me. Well, I got corrected. One of our viewers sent a message basically saying that Brethren Disaster Ministry workers signed a pledge that they will not proselytize, but that does not stop them from having a conversation and sharing their faith. So I wanted to just clear that up. So, Pastor Dave, in your sermon yesterday, you said,
"We've done an excellent job of serving others, loving neighbors, and doing unto the least of these, but we have done less well sharing why we feel compelled to do what we do." In fact, I wonder sometimes if we even know what drives us to be in service ministries.
Can you explain that a little bit further?
Well, I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the Church of the Brethren in this last maybe generation or two, they have been kind of more reluctant to share the love of God through word. And I think, again, it's because of this whole idea that evangelism is kind of a bad word these days, and it makes us come across as arrogant and presumptuous. And so I think the last generation or two, I think we've done a good job in showing the love of God through acts of service. Brethren Disaster Relief, Heifer Project was originally a Church of the Brethren. Heifer International, I should say, was originally a project from the Church of the Brethren, and so on and so forth. And so I think that we've almost gotten used to the idea that Christianity is all about doing acts of service, being neighborly. And I think at times we fail to kind of even undergird what we're doing with Scripture, with the idea that we're doing this because of our love for neighbor, but that comes through our love of God and our love of Jesus. And so maybe that's where I was coming from. You ask someone who's in Brethren Disaster Ministries, why are they doing what they're doing? And I bet you it would take a little bit of time for them to maybe articulate why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because you did emphasize in your sermon that be ready with an answer. It's Paul that tells us that, right?
Peter.
Yes. I'm sorry. It's Peter that tells us, be ready with an answer. So think through, why is it you do what you do? So if someone asks, because that happened to me, someone actually asked me, why am I doing whatever I'm doing? And I'm like, I'm part of the church. And like I didn't have an answer. I mean, today I can answer.
Right.
Because I went through that experience. Well, if you never went through that experience, maybe you don't have an answer ready. And I like that in the sermon that you were saying, get yourself ready, because God, and I believe this too, if you're ready, God's going to give you the opportunity to share.
Yeah, and I think I did say in the sermon too, when you come up on those situations, don't squander it, because God has probably put you in that kind of situation where you can share your faith. But again, from the very first sermon, listening was key to establishing that relationship, so that if someone asks, that's what Peter says in the sermon, if someone asks in the Scripture, then you are prepared to share your faith with that person.
Okay, that's actually a perfect segue into the next thing I wanted to ask you about. Again, in your sermon, you said,
it may take one conversation, it may take hundreds of conversations before someone asks. The point being, when someone does ask, the person is receptive and open to what you have to share.
That makes sense to me. But my question is, are you basically saying that we shouldn't share prior to being asked the question? Or is there a time where we can share without having been prompted?
Well, that's pretty nuanced, Kevin. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are opportunities, and it's always funny because it always seems like it happens on a flight or something like that, or you're sitting next to someone in at the gate or whatever, that these kind of conversations come up. I think that you can say something, but let it be subtle. Let it be a subtle question or a subtle comment that could trigger a person to go in that direction. But if the person sees it and doesn't want to go there, then you don't have to do anything more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you don't have to wait till someone says, well, tell me about your faith, but you might, prompt a question that could go in that direction. But if the person doesn't take it, then you just go. I don't know.
Okay. No,
Yeah, I am let me just say, I'm confessing that I am a reluctant evangelist.
okay.
And so these are the ways that I would see myself doing.
There was a line in your manuscript, but you did not include it in your sermon, where you said salvation is a relationship. And now people may not know this, but I invited Dave into my world here of the tech. I sit in the back of the sanctuary. I run all the tech. And I follow his manuscript. And there was a line in there where you said, salvation is a relationship. And I thought that was so important, but you left it out. Is there a reason why you left it out?
Yeah. I left it out because I just went over it for some reason. I did not mean to leave it out. And I'm thinking what that follows is I was talking about the idea that salvation is not a formula, that you don't do step 1, step 2, and step 3, and you're saved and it's all done. You're good to go. Rather, and I missed it, obviously not a good thing, because what I wanted to do was to build on top of that by saying salvation is a relationship with Jesus Christ, first and foremost. Then it's a relationship with everything. One another, neighborly, and creation. I mean, it's kind of the total package. Salvation is all about relationship. First and foremost is your relationship with God, and so on and so forth. So, probably the sermon was lacking in the sense that my crux moment was gone because I slipped over the manuscript.
Okay, well, I'm glad we were able to get it out here then. And then finally, can you tell us what topic this is a 3-part series.
Yes.
What is the third part going to be about?
Yeah, so the first sermon was on listening, that effective evangelism, first and foremost, is listening to someone. And if we can do that, then we've accomplished a lot. If we can build a relationship into a friendship, that's accomplishing a lot. The second sermon was on speaking. If and when it happens that you can share your faith, then be prepared to do so. The third then will be discipling. And the Matthew 28 passage from 16 to 20 actually talks about discipling. It doesn't talk about converting souls, that a lot of times we think the Great Commission is all about, is conversion of souls. Discipling is really what Matthew 28 is about. It's about being an apprentice to Jesus Christ. So hope you can stay tuned and join us this Sunday.
Okay, so that's going to do it for weekly Talkback. We want to know what you have to think. If you got a chance to see the sermon, if you listen to this podcast, obviously, leave us a comment, leave us a question, and we will respond back if it's a question. And we'll see you next week.